Okay. I feel the craving. Where's the craving coming from? Am I legitimately hungry? What is something else going on mentally or emotionally? Do I feel disconnected in some way spiritually? Am I trying to accomplish something in the world, but I'm hitting all these walls and blocks and it's frustrating for me? We turn to food. We turn to people. We turn to sex. We turn to drugs. We turn to alcohol. We turn to technology. There's a billion places we can turn. For the time being, you're turning to food. But I can assure you that there's a reason. That's something only you could explore in terms of your mental and emotional inner world reality in the moments where you're experiencing craving and you're wanting to go reach out for something sweet. Nicole, what is on your mind and what is on your heart?
So I have been clean and sober for 2.5 years, and I've noticed that lifelong enjoyment of sweets has devolved into a pretty unhealthy relationship where I'm constantly considering eating something sweet as either a punishment or a reward. Like, don't eat it because you shouldn't, or at least I'm not drinking and doing drugs, so I deserve it. And I understand that this might be a common thing with people in recovery. And you've mentioned in your work that rehauling your diet, focusing on what you put into what you consume, has been as important to your recovery as meditation, abstinence, yoga. And I just wondered if you could really break that down.
Mm.
And particularly the sugar piece, and I wanted to voice also that I'm a little bit afraid asking this question, because I don't want to feel ashamed of my choices. I want to celebrate them.
Mm.
But I feel like I'm ready to not be wrestling constantly with myself over, do
Mm.
I just abstain from sugar completely? Is there a place of moderation? How can I live joyfully in this life? Is this another addiction that I need to address?
Beautiful. Beautiful. I'm so grateful for this inquiry. One of my favorite topics in the world, food. And so we'll dig in here for a moment. Thank you, Nicole. First of all, I want everybody in this circle, and I mean the circle globally, to understand this is a shame-free zone. We're not here to feel like somebody else has done something wrong or shameful, or to make them feel that way. And we are here to experience our feelings, to share our feelings, and to process through and to explore these puzzle pieces. Whenever anybody brings up something that is so obviously universal as relationship with food, it is time to really dig in to this powerful topic. So thank you for the opportunity. I'll start with a story. When I was a child, so I'm thinking sort of young child, and then all the way through, say, 10, I would visit my grandmother's home. My grandmother lived on the Lower East Side of Manhattan. My mother, and so she was my father's mother, my grandmother. My mom and dad were divorced. I lived with my mom. My mom lived on the Upper East Side. So I would go from the Upper East Side of Manhattan down to the Lower East Side of Manhattan. That was a regular thing for me throughout my childhood and my adolescence. When I got to my grandmother's home, and I called her Nanny, I was smothered in love. I was smothered in a kind of love that you could only really understand if you had a Jewish grandmother, someone who enveloped you. They, and my aunts also, and my grandfather at the time when he was alive, I mean, they'd pull at you, they'd pull at your cheeks, they'd grab you, they loved you so much they didn't know what to do about it. They couldn't express it. Like, it was so big. You really understood that you were like the most important thing in the world to them, us kids. And so and they were old school Jewish. You know, they spoke Yiddish, and they would call me Tatala, which means little boy. You know, Tatala, and I'd be down there and I'd be smothered in love. And well, my nanny, she made the most incredible spaghetti and meatballs, and I had nanny's spaghetti and meatballs throughout my entire childhood. And it was always, nanny, nanny, please make spaghetti and meatballs, make spaghetti and meatballs. You know. Well, a few decades later, and nanny's long gone. My parents are long gone. I'll be damned if when I feel sad, frustrated, anxious, disconnected, I'm not making a big plate of pasta that tastes a lot like nanny's spaghetti and meatballs. It is like a unconscious but conscious thing at this point. It's like I equate that food with love and sweetness. It is unconditional. It is so powerful. I don't even have words to put around it. It's a story that's so deep in my psyche. And I believe that all of us have these stories around food. And so I'm not trying not to eat pasta. It's not on my no-go list. It's okay. But what I am trying to do is to have a conscious relationship with food. What does that mean? I want to eat for energy and joy. I don't want to eat to stimulate myself. I don't want to eat to sedate myself. I don't want to eat for those reasons. I want to get joy and nourishment, fuel for this life from the food that I want to share food with other people that I love, and that feels so good. For the longest time, I had the worst diet you could possibly imagine. First 25 to 30 years of my life. Addicted to sugar beyond what I'm confident in saying. You couldn't even imagine what I was doing with sugar. There's no way for me to overstate it, how far along the timeline, the spectrum of addiction I was. Sugar fueled my childhood, fueled my hyperactivity, fueled my mental ADHD, whatever you want to label that as. I was unbelievably addicted to it. And when I get off balance today, I'm now in a 57-year-old body. And when I'm off balance today, for sure, sugar plays a role there. And I need to pay attention. I need to pay attention because I'm on two reasons for me. I want to be in a healthy frame and I don't want to get sick the way that I saw my parents get sick behind food addiction, both of them. Number one. Also, though, I'm on a spiritual path and I want to make sure that I can access the right frequency. I want to be able to meditate. I want to be able to move. I want to be able to be free. And so what I hear in your inquiry here about food is there's an element of you that feels out of control here. That you're not feeling free and liberated in this relationship. So a couple of ways to break that up. Number one, I started with a story because I want you to understand how powerful this stuff is on a subconscious level. You could go through the exercise of asking yourself, okay, I heard Tommy's story about his grandmother's spaghetti and meatballs. I heard Tommy relate frustration or lack of sweetness in life to his move towards the refrigerator to get some sugar or to get something that is sweet or to get pasta? Can I bring to my own awareness what it is exactly that I'm doing? And I really mean challenging yourself to actually pay attention when you're going to the fridge. Okay, I feel a craving. Okay, it's all right. You don't have to avoid it. Okay, I feel a craving. All right, where's the craving coming from? Am I legitimately hungry? What is something else going on mentally or emotionally? Do I feel disconnected in some way spiritually? Am I trying to accomplish something in the world, but I'm hitting all these walls and blocks and it's frustrating for me? We turn to food. We turn to people. We turn to sex. We turn to drugs. We turn to alcohol. We turn to technology. There's a billion places we can turn. For the time being, you're turning to food. But I can assure you that there's a reason. There's something worth looking for. So that's something only you could explore in terms of your mental and emotional inner world reality in the moments where you're experiencing craving and you're wanting to go reach out for something sweet. What's missing from my life? Is there a sweetness missing from my life in some way that I'm going after it in food? This is a great inquiry. Next, on the purely physical, biological level, the body craves what's already in it. The body craves what's already in it. If you want to break your craving to sugar, then you have to go through that period of 3 days, 72 hours approximately, of getting on a detox and a cleanse and breaking out of the habit. How can you do that? There's programs for that. There's cleanses for that. There's support for that. There's supervision for that. We do those kinds of things also in Recovery 2.0. There's lots of opportunity there to break initially out of the physical addiction to sugar because the body craves what's in it. As an aside, I heard you say that you're a number of years sober, so this isn't going to apply directly to you. But when people do come off of alcohol, for example, when you've been drinking a lot of alcohol, that breaks down, the body recognizes it ultimately as sugar. When you give up drinking alcohol, your body will naturally be experiencing a blood sugar issue, an imbalance. So you might be craving sugar and not know why when you're coming off of alcohol. So I just say that here because it's relevant for people who struggle in that way and might be just coming off of that. On a microbiome level, so there are trillions, literally trillions of organisms in your body, and many of them are living in your digestive tract. And those organisms have needs just like you do. And very often we feel a craving, and that craving isn't actually our craving. That's actually the craving of creatures that are alive in your microbiome, in your digestive tract, that are asking you to feed them what they're looking for. And what they're looking for is sugar. Why? Because you've been feeding that to them, and that's what they are used to now. And we get this imbalance. There are many, many protocols to very quickly bring the digestive tract back into balance. Also, it's so powerful to go through cleanses and dietary changes with the seasons and also in community. You make a community thing out of this rather than being an isolated individual who's struggling in their relationship with food. So I've been through this so many times, and I understand the thought process behind it and the struggle of it and feeling badly about oneself, because you have to do it every day. You have to eat. And so there are just so many protocols for breaking out of the initial sugar cravings. There are yoga practices that support you along that way. And I would love to walk you through sincerely, and guide you through some specific protocols, point you in a few directions that could really help you to break out on the physical level out of that physical craving. Then, of course, you're going to need to stay vigilant on a program to find yourself back to balance on a one day at a time basis. Ultimately, I would love for you to have freedom and a sense of freedom around food, and to love this relationship with food and to love your relationship with your body. Finally, I'll say this, and it sounds weird, but I go to India every year. And sometimes I'll pick up some visitors in my digestive tract when I go to India. And when I do that, especially parasites, and that happens, I'll notice that I develop very powerful sugar cravings and that my diet goes a little bit off. And so sometimes on the purely physical level, it's important to do some lab tests. You can get a stool test, you can get blood tests, and you can get a full rundown of what's actually happening in your digestive tract. And it has been so incredibly helpful for me to know and then to address those infections or whatever the challenges might be. And that brings us back into balance. It's a game of balance, this thing. Finally, become super prayerful in your approach to food. No matter what it is you're about to eat, whether it's a bag of Doritos or a bunch of chocolate or something that you think you shouldn't be eating, or the most healthy, beautiful salad and exactly what you feel you should be eating, or whatever in between, start to say prayers over the food, like religiously, no pun intended. Say it. I'm so grateful for this. I'm so grateful for this. May this serve me. May this serve me in my thoughts, my words, my actions, my deeds in the world. I'm so grateful. Thank you. Thank you for this. Thank you for the blessing of this food. And start to bring this sacred into your relationship with food. Changes everything. Changes the whole game. Changes the way the food behaves inside of you. I can't prove that to you, but I know it to be true personally. Become prayerful. And even just those prayers can change your relationship with food. It's such an incredibly powerful thing to do. My teacher, Guru Prem, he said to me, no child could be spoiled if their parents truly teach them to pray over their food and to be grateful for their food. And another thing he said, which I really loved, was we were speaking about veganism and how some people who are vegans become very militant and intense. And he said, I would rather be a grateful person who ate every meal at McDonald's than to be a militant vegan who doesn't pray over their food. And so that really underlines this importance of being grateful for what we get to eat and thinking about eating for energy and for fuel for this mind and this body. And, you know, when I'm going to the fridge and I know I'm not hungry and I'm like, why am I here? Why am I looking into this box as if there's something in here that can save me? And I'm remembering Nanny, I'm remembering all the stories, and I have to just say to myself, Tommy, take a deep breath, step away, go outside for a minute, have a nice walk. Come back when you're hungry. You know, and we begin to change that relationship little by little, one day at a time, and be patient with yourself. Forgive yourself. And these are some of my thoughts around food. It's like there's so many good people are going to hear this and be like, oh my God, it's so hard. It's so challenging. Food. Oh my goodness. I've struggled so hard. You know, I've seen every approach to this, from the most stringent people who weigh their food and need to weigh their food or feel they need to weigh their food at every meal, and need to give up, all gluten, all flour, all sugar, 100%. It can never, ever go there. And I would say about that person, wonderful if it helps you to be free. If it keeps you stuck in thinking about food, I'll just say that wouldn't be the end game that I'm looking for. I'm always looking for liberation and freedom. But for some people, that might be liberation and freedom. Or that might be a stepping stone towards liberation and freedom, So there's no black and white here. So tell me, Nicole, comes up for you as we explore this?
I think that there have been times that I have considered food as a substance that is going to offer me escape from the present moment. And one of the most beautiful things that I have experienced in recovery is being present. I have some circumstances. I'm a single mother. My children's dad is an addict. Where every night after I finally get the kids to bed, that's when these feelings come up. And I really relate to the story about Nanny. And, I grew up in an alcoholic household where one of the things that made sense to me was dessert. And I had a mother with an eating disorder, but she ate dessert. So I'm starting to draw some connections that I think are really helpful. And I definitely want to do more thinking about, how can I bring more sweetness into my life so that I'm not seeking it from even handful after handful of goji berries.
Yes. Beautiful. I love your awareness of the time of day, or that moment when the kids go down and there's it's almost like there's an exhale, like, oh, and there's a sort of a return to you, and it's like, okay, I've done all the things, I've done all the mommy things, I've done the things I have to do, and now it's sort of me and me, and you're coming home. And I bet there's so many things that you'd like to do with that time, and that you can explore with that time and the evening and moments where you're free. Free meaning you've got some time to yourself. It's really a practice for us to become successful at being with ourselves. It's a huge practice. And I find that one of the meditative practices, I've been traveling for the last couple of weeks, and one of the things that I was doing when I was traveling was purposely sitting alone, and making sure that nothing else was a part of, like, I couldn't grab at anything, is what I mean. And really being in the experience of not grabbing at anything, not chasing anything, not pursuing anything. Even in my mind, if thoughts come up, I'd let them come up, but I would just let them go right away. Like, I'm just going to be here. And developing that presence is such a beautiful thing. So thank you for this inquiry. I'm grateful for you. And thank you for, for opening it up for so many folks to consider these ideas.